All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So hi everybody, thanks for coming out tonight for our webinar and joining us this evening for the Athletic Training and Sport Medicine webinar tonight. I am Katie Fennell and I'm the Director of Admission at Marietta College. And with me is Jaclyn Schwieterman from the Athletic Training and Sport Medicine program at Marietta College to answer any kind of questions you guys might have about what it takes to be a student in these programs. So I'll have Jaclyn begin by introducing herself and then we'll get into some questions.
All right, so as Katie said, my name is Jaclyn Schwieterman and I am actually finishing my 11th year here at Marietta College. And recently, in the last 2 years, we actually added the sports medicine bachelor's degree program, and that program was designed mainly to go into the Masters of Athletic Training program. And so for the master's program, it was meant to be that we had prerequisite courses. And so we just recently added that. So our department changed from the Department of Sports Medicine to the Department of Athletic Training and Sports Medicine recently. So like I said, finishing up my 11th year, and I'm the chair and program director and kind of work with both curriculums, and then I also do have clinical responsibility. So my clinical responsibility has dwindled down with the role that I have, and I cover the men's basketball team here. So that's a little bit about me.
Very good. I know it's tough to ask the first question. So for those of you who are here, be thinking about some things that you'd like to ask Jaclyn. Also, I'm here on the admission side of things. So if you have questions about admission, I'm happy to answer those as well. But just to kind of get us started, I know I get this question a lot when I'm visiting high schools and college fairs. So really, what is the difference between sport medicine and athletic training? Do I have to do sport medicine to go into athletic training? Can I just do sport medicine? Can you kind of break that down?
Yeah, so good question. So the athletic training program now is a master's degree. So technically, to get into the Masters of Athletic Training program at Marietta College, you need to have a bachelor's of something. Doesn't matter what field it is, but you do need to have the prereqs, and those are coming from our accrediting body. So we can't just slide those under the rug. So you could be a graphic design major, and as long as you have the chemistry, the physics, and the biologies in line, then you could do it. It's a little bit harder, right, to be able to do that in the time period if you're hoping to be a student for 3 or 4 years in the bachelor's program. So the master's degree, separate, you can do any major, right, and get into that. The sports medicine side of things, as I mentioned, it was created to mainly be kind of that funnel into our master's because it has all the prerequisite courses that we are requiring. We also added a few extra courses that we thought were beneficial for an athletic trainer moving forward. So an example of that would be Intro to Health Communications. And so that's a really great course, and actually with everything with the COVID-19 that's happening now, they've really dived deep into, what do we trust as far as communication that's out there. So we felt like that was a really important class among some other psychology classes, Intro to Health Psychology. These are classes that aren't required based on our accreditation standards, but are classes that we felt were really beneficial for our students going into the master's. The sports medicine track then is built to be a 3+2 program. Now, you could do the sports medicine program and go on to do another career. It has some of the majority of the prereqs that would be needed for PA and PT and med school and OT, but not all of them. And so, for instance, med school, you would need more physics and you would need calculus. PT, you would need more physics and neuroscience. So there's a couple extra classes that you would need to take. So just like our program, the master's program, that you could take any major and make sure that you have the prereqs, you could do the same thing with any other career field. So to answer your question about, can I take the sports medicine major and not go into the master's? Of course, you can do that, but that's not the intention of it. There are going to be classes that are going to be geared toward athletic training that if you're not into that, it won't necessarily be the track that you really enjoy. There are other tracks in our college that are greatly suited for those other programs though too, that I encourage students to investigate too.
Cool. That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, because when I think sport medicine, when I think athletic training, it's a very hands-on, interactive programs.
Mm-hmm.
So with all the craziness in the world right now, with COVID-19, us working from home, students being at home, how are your classes going? I mean, what have you had to do to make changes for that?
Good question. So we can't just, so our students aren't at clinical sites, and so we can't just brush under the rug, as I said before, different requirements from our accrediting body. So there are accrediting standards that we have to meet and competencies that our students have to be proficient in, and I ultimately get to sign over that they can actually take their boards exam. So I am essentially saying they're competent in their skills. So we needed to make sure those were covered. So the seniors and the juniors had quite a few left. And so Kirsten Gessel, who's our clinical education coordinator, and I have been doing some different things with standardized patients in real time here on campus when we've been in campus. But like you said, we're not there. So we've actually done a lot of telehealth, and we actually have incorporated our medical director as well as training. So we trained 3 former athletes that are seniors to be a patient, and they went and visited our students. They had this, they were checking in their paperwork for preseason, and they, obviously we trained them to say what they needed to do and what they were reacting with. And the students had to kind of give their overview of how this person was doing. And then we've had to do that with other individuals. So I've had students on Zoom, just like we're on now, and that I've had to, for instance, one student needed a cervical eval done. So I came up with an injury, and she had to evaluate me, and I had to move my head and be able to give her those answers. And just this past Friday, our medical director actually was on Zoom, and our students had to call in and present a case to him. And it was a fake case, but he, along with it, asked questions following up. So we've had to adapt, but being in my doctorate program right now in education, and we've already kind of learned about how to adapt to online learning. We had an advantage definitely in our department, and we took that advantage and tried to make it the best for our students. Sure. And something that we've kind of noticed too is this is going to be something really important moving forward, and that we want to add to the master's degree, and adding telehealth and telemedicine, and what's the difference, and being able to allow the students to be exposed to that, because that is, where some physicians' offices are turning to pre-COVID-19, right? And so making sure that we're giving our students the skills that are going to set them apart from others. So yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and really cool.
Okay, so I also get this type of question a lot. Students saying, well, I know I want to go into the health field. I just don't know where in the health field I want to go into. And when I think of undergraduate programs, we have sport medicine, like we're talking about today, leading into athletic training. We've got health sciences, biology, chemistry, all these different things. So, what kind of student, or what kind of things, if a student really is gravitating towards certain things, how do you know they would fit in the athletic training program? Do you know what I'm saying? How can you figure that out, saying, ooh, this is the part of the health field that I really want to be in?
Yeah, there are a couple of steps. When you come to Marietta College, there's a couple classes that will help with that. One, I teach a PIO 101 class, which all the students take a PIO 101 when they come into the college. And my class is called No I in Healthcare, and it's built around this interprofessional, this teamwork, and we're seeing that a lot right now, right? And all these medical professionals working together to fight this virus. And so that class kind of expands on all different health professions, and I bring in a panel to kind of discuss their pathways, and the students can ask questions. So that's something that we do once the students are on campus. when I'm meeting with recruits and prospective students, something that I usually I typically encourage them to do is shadow, and to be able to ask those hard questions of, if you could go back and be an athletic trainer, would you? And if not, why? What would you do different, right? And asking those questions then, as opposed to how did you get to where you are, right? Unless you really like what their career field is. So that's one way. And another way is in our second year of the Bachelor's of Sports Medicine, they take a AT seminar class in which Kirsten teaches that class and kind of exposes them to all the domains of athletic training. And they learn about what it means to do rehab and evaluate and to do the organ add part of things. And that gives them this 20,000 foot view of what athletic training is. So that's in that second year, the first semester, and they're not too far in that it would be hurtful to go, as far as career wise, to go a different direction if they didn't like it. And so far we've taught that class one semester and the students really liked it. And I want to say we have almost 100% of them retaining to the next semester, saying this is something I want to do. So there's observation hours that go with that, in which they're observing an athletic trainer on campus. And there's certain requirements as far as how many hours they need for that class. But then for the application program into the master's, there's 75 hours. And those hours need to be with an athletic trainer, but it doesn't have to be an athletic trainer at Marietta College. So those are some ways that we expose students to opportunities to be able to do or to know a little bit more about the field. And I think when you ask what skills, how do they know? I think it's really just talking to people and learning what the field is and if it excites you, right? And then also you have to survive the classes. So you might really want to be a physician and then you can't pass biology. Well, that's not going to be helpful because you have to get all the way to biochemistry. So yeah, being able to discuss with people and then really reflecting on what do you want to do and what makes you happy. And wondering, and asking yourself why do I want to do this? And then going with why you want to do it. So
sure. So you touched on this a little bit when you're going through your last answer. But I know a lot of students will come in just undecided. So thinking of like the timeline, maybe they think they want to do physical therapy. So they start in health sciences and then they find out, ooh, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to do athletic training. Is there a certain point where they should probably maybe make that decision? What does the timeline look like?
Yeah, and it's actually, we just got done with registration a couple weeks ago, and I've actually been meeting with quite a few sophomores and freshmen that are thinking about doing a different route than what they came into Marietta as. Really, it's that, if they're in a health-related field, so if they're in health science, biology, chemistry, they're probably on a similar track because they do need those foundational courses. If it's someone coming from left field from English or accounting, right, they probably don't have as much science, and so the earlier the better for those folks. But being in the sciences and not knowing what healthcare profession you want to go into, it's not a bad thing because you're on the right track anyway. Our classes, like the main classes as far as making sure that you're doing them in order, really starts your sophomore year. So I tell students that first year, try to find a peer, try to cling on to someone or ask a million questions in those classes and have as many meetings as you can with professors or with your peers to try to figure that out. And I know I have some students right now that are current freshmen and sophomores that came in as something different, and now they're like, worried, but they were on the health, or they were on the health science or science related tracks, I guess I should say, and they're going to be just fine. So like I said, if you're in a profession or in a field that's not really related to the sciences, it's a little bit more, the sooner the better. Sure. But the other ones, you have a year of cushion.
That's good. I know a lot of students I know a lot of parents have that anxiety of, can my student change their major? And I always tell them the majority of students change it at least once. So that's good to know. Good reassurance.
Yeah.
We do have a few more people who've popped in, so welcome. For those new folks who are just joining us, my name is Katie Fennell. I'm the Director of Admission at Marietta College, and with me is Jaclyn Schwieterman, and she is the Director of the Athletic Training and Sport Medicine program. So we have an expert here today. So if you have any specific questions about those programs or even about admission, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or chat, which is on the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we can kind of get to those. So while they're kind of thinking of questions, I have more questions.
Okay.
So I know, you know, being in the classroom, having those shadowing hours are really important. What are other ways outside of kind of strictly classwork can students get involved within sport medicine, within the athletic training program? Are there like professional organizations or clubs, things they can do to kind of get involved?
Yeah, so we do have, it's called MCATSO, the Marietta College Athletic Training Student Association, or organization, not association, because but we always just call it MCATSO, so I never really have to define it. But there is a student organization, and it's a little different because our juniors and seniors are in the bachelor's program, and it's kind of that weird, like, well, do we invite them? Do we not? Are they coming? And so they do different events and invite the students within the sports medicine program to all of the events. And those include, you know, meetings on Thursday just to kind of go over what they're thinking about doing. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, they weren't able to do their blood drive, but typically there's a blood drive every year. We do something fun against each of the classes and the faculty. Somehow we always lose, but it's a penny war. And I think someone just, you know, rigs our jar because I thought for sure we won this year. But we do different events of that sort. And then around Christmas, we have our ugly Christmas sweater and gift exchange that we do. And then towards the end of the year, they'll do different, they've done pumpkin carving. And so a lot of things to try to get them to do things together. And we're hoping to keep that kind of niche. And so that they are on the part of electing new members. And so we're having our virtual banquet next week. And so those elections are going on, and they'll be picked, and those sports medicine students will be able to fit into a role if that's something they want to do. Outside of that, our students, I was able to take a freshman this year to the Southeast Athletic Trainers Association Student Symposium. That was in February, which seems like a year ago, but that was in February. And the students, there's over 800 athletic training students that are there. And so they're all from different levels, right? So that could be someone at the first year in their master's, second year in their master's, and they've kind of revamped that to be that it's 2 tracks that students in their master's degree can go. So we were able to bring someone, we had an extra spot, and you know, that might be something that we offer to students when they get to their junior year to be able to go. And so that's one of the things. And also our state organization typically has a quiz bowl and a couple lectures during mid-November that our students can go to. And it's a pretty, we pay for their admissions and such to go there. And then of course there's the National Organization of National Athletic Trainers Association. And we encourage our students to go to those meetings, but at times it's a little bit more costly because they're in Texas, or this year's supposed to be in Atlanta. Yeah. And so it's a little harder for them to get to those. So those are the main things that our students get involved with over the years. And besides that, we have taken 3 trips abroad. And so that's where I've seen that the classes really mesh. And, you know, because I had freshmen to graduating seniors going the one year, and they all talked, and that really built a bond too for them. So we try to expose them and try to get them a lot of different unique opportunities if we can. And so the students have the ability to really capitalize on those opportunities. So.
Okay, so there is a question. Do you have to be an athlete to be in the sport medicine or athletic training programs? Are there any non-athletes? How does that work with your sport?
Yeah. So in the Bachelor's of Sports Medicine, you could be any sport. You could do 2 sports. That's really up to the coaches and how valuable you are, I guess, to each of the teams. But in the Bachelor's of Sports Medicine program, you are able to do your sport. You will have no interference, unlike any other normal student. And what I mean by that is if you have a lab or if you have a class, obviously you're going to that, and your practices and your games are kind of worked around that. And if it's away, you have an excuse and that sort of thing. Once you get into the master's degree, and so maybe I should explain the tracks here. So there are 2 options to do a 3+2 and another option to do a 4+2. And a lot of people say, well, why would I ever want to do the 4+2? And so the 4+2 is really meant to be for those students that maybe it took an extra year, right? And it's those students that I was talking about that I came in, I thought it was English or accounting, and now I wanted to do sports medicine, and it's going to take me an extra year to get the credits that I need. I've already kind of got my general education credits, but that would be someone that would take 4 years. Another person would be someone that's like die hard, gotta play my sport for 4 years. And we remind students that you do not have to step foot on Marietta College's campus and then tell us right then and there that you want 3 or 4. And we do that, we don't do that, I guess I should say. We don't make them declare, because we want them to kind of feel it out. And their role on their team may change over the 3 or 4 years. And so we don't want to, make them say, I'm going to do 3 years or I'm going to do 4 years. Right now in the sophomore cohort, there are students that are up in the air on still what they want to do. And they need to make that decision by next spring, because that's when they'll be applying. But so there's 2 options kind of there. And obviously you have to have your credits done, right? So if you have to retake several classes, the 3 is not a good option for you. And so the 3 part does allow you to then go into your master's degree, which would be your technically your senior year. And so during the master's program, there will be no one will be able to be participating in sports. This is a master's program that will be classes in the morning into the early afternoon, and then off to the clinical site of whatever site that they're at, which could be on campus or off campus. And it just won't be enough time for them. As an athlete, there's a lot of time that you spend in your sport. And so you won't be able to have that much time allotted for your sport as well as class. So in the master's degree, no sports. In the bachelor's degree, you could play all of them if you wanted.
Gotcha. But you don't necessarily have to.
Right. You do not have to be an athlete. We actually, it's interesting to kind of, I've never really not that I would do a study, but I've never looked at how many of our students came in as athletes. I think in our junior class right now, there's only 1 athlete left, and they all started as athletes here. So,
okay, yeah.
So it's kind of a mix.
Sure.
So you do not have to be an athlete though. Yeah.
So there's a question about internships, and I'm going to kind of broaden that as well. So what kind of I'm thinking kind of experiential learning opportunities, right? So internships, research opportunities, field experience, study abroad. What kind of things do students do in these programs that relate to those opportunities?
Yeah, so in the Bachelor's of Sports Medicine program, we actually have experiential learning in the nutrition class. So there's an applied nutrition that I actually teach, and was just recently approved to be an experiential learning class. So in that class, the students get to go into the elementary schools around here and teach them about nutrition. And that's a really cool opportunity for them. And it was fun this year because I had students that were land and energy management all the way to, and that were seniors, all the way to the freshmen that was the health science or athletic training major. And so that's an opportunity for them to be able to give back, and not trying to make them teachers, but that's, kind of a service learning opportunity. Outside of that, as far as research during their bachelor's, if you do the 3+2 part, we are able to move your capstone experience into the master's program. If you're in the 4+2, you have to continue with the capstone requirement that we have. And the reason being is to get your bachelor's in that 4, you actually have to get to that 120, and you have to have all the general education and all of that completed. You don't just get a waive for that. So in that, there's a 2-credit research project in which you'll be reflecting on your bachelor's of sports medicine and how it's going to impact your career moving forward. And also it has kind of, as you mentioned, kind of an internship. So it has an hour requirement. I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's 20 or 25 hours that the students are going to pick a field that they're really interested in. So let's say I'm like, I wanted to be an athletic trainer at a clinic. And so we have some athletic trainers that work in clinics around here. So setting them up with them. Or I think I want to be a strength coach. Okay, well that maybe you go find a strength coach and that's someone that you kind of are with. So that course is meant to be a little bit of feeling out what you want to do in the next phase of your life, but also has a little bit of research and reflection component to that as well. When they get into the master's degree, there are several opportunities for both experiential as well as research. So all students will be completing a master's thesis. And so that will be starting in that second summer and work throughout the rest of the year or the rest of their second year. And that's going to be on a topic of their choice. And they'll be working with a research advisor and figuring out something that they've really found an interest in, especially in that first year. And then on top of that, we'll be having an immersive experience. And that's going to be kind of what people would term an internship. Our students can get internships in the summer, but the immersive experience allows them in that last semester, they'll be able to go some other place. They don't have to leave Marietta, but outside of Marietta College to get 6 weeks of continuous in the day of the life of an athletic trainer. And so during that time, there really won't be online classes, but more checking in and reflection. And they'll be working directly with an athletic trainer. We obviously have to have affiliation agreements with them, so it's not just some random person. And so we're going to tap into our alumni system for that and trying to get our alums on board of accepting students. And so that will be a really great experience for them to really see what the totality of the life of an athletic trainer and really hopefully for the next steps, right, for what they're going to do. And then on top of that, during the second summer, we also have a study abroad that's put into it. And so we really valued that study abroad component in our bachelor's program. So we kind of moved it as an optional component into the master's and hoping that each cohort would do it. But so it might be, we say it's study abroad, but it could be study domestically, depending on, everyone's interest level and being able to go somewhere within the contiguous United States or going abroad. And we've been going to Australia and Ireland the past 3 trips. So keeping that, in the loop because healthcare is different. We're realizing right now we all have to really communicate on what each other's doing across countries, but in general, an athletic trainer is not the same in Australia as it is in Ireland, as it is in the United States. So being able to kind of see how that healthcare system changes is really cool.
That is cool. I do have a question about, you had mentioned capstones.
Mm-hmm.
I know we just had our virtual All Scholars Day. So I don't know I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you know, or can you remember any of the capstone presentations from this year's past that you thought were really interesting?
Yeah, so we actually, we had several interesting ones. One was on cupping. And so everyone remembers Michael Phelps in the Olympics and having all these circles around him.
Yep.
Right. And so that's one of the things that our athletes get really excited about. And we've seen a lot of improvement on different things. And so one of our students did whether moist heat pack, which is just like a heating pad versus cupping, if that actually helped. And there wasn't really much change. She didn't really have a big population that was a part of her study. So that was one. Another one was looking at sleep and tracking sleep and also performance on performance tests such as high jump. And I want to say she did, it was landing technique. So looking at, predisposing themselves to an injury from just looking at the biomechanics and the video analysis. Another student actually did a study where they had the students do a LESS test, which is jumping off of a box, and again analyzing that as well as their a triple hop. And then she had everyone kind of go through the season and then check to see what their injury rate was, to see, what their biomechanics did that truly predispose them to an injury. So that was interesting. And I think she only had one significant thing. And then another student did on birth control and an injury, really. And so any female athlete that was injured, it didn't matter if it was ACL, ankle, sprain, something with the shoulder. They were sent, and this was in the OAC, they were sent the survey link to be able to fill out to see,
That's so interesting.
On their menstrual cycle, were they taking birth control, and those sorts of things, and also asking their injuries. So that was a really interesting study as well. And I'm forgetting someone. And then the last one was hydration. And so looking at rate of perceived exertion and hydration status. And then ultimately she wanted to look at injury rates and that sort of thing, but didn't really get the opportunity to. So just looking at, how did the athletes say, what do they think of this workout? So there's a Borg scale that they kind of rank it. And then they pee in a cup before the practice actually started, and they rate themselves after. And so it's to see, if they were hydrated, did they perceive it differently than if they were dehydrated?
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I love how they span, a wide variety of topics.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we did that via Zoom the other day. I actually posted a picture of that on LinkedIn that our students all presented, and then the juniors all came to it. And then everyone within our department was there, including our graduate students. And so, we think of this time as it's, interfering with everyone's life, but we actually have been able to do a lot of cool things. We've been able to include people that we haven't necessarily been able to include before. In my nutrition class, I was able to add really awesome alumni guest speakers that one lives in Ohio, the other one lives several states away. And so to get them here to do a lecture every year is a little bit more challenging, but having them Zoom into class was really awesome. So we've been taking advantage of technology, that's for sure.
Good. That's awesome. Well, it looks like we've gone through all of our questions, and we've been at this for a half hour, believe it or not. So just to kind of wrap us up, Jaclyn, could you give everyone your contact information in case they have any follow-up questions?
Yeah. So if you have any questions at all and you don't remember this, you can definitely find me online. But my email is sj004@marietta.edu. And my office number is 740-376-4773. And you can call and leave a message anytime. I know probably recently I've been getting more messages about transfer credits and that sort of thing. So if you're thinking about if you have any questions comparing programs, those sorts of things, you can always feel free to email me or give me a call.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been really fun. So I do want to throw out the admission information as well. Whether you have just sent in your application, you've been accepted, or you were already planning on coming to Marietta, we're glad that you stuck with us and watched today. If you have any kind of questions on the admission side of things, feel free to email us at admit, that's ADMIT, @marietta.edu, and we can help you along the way. Most of us counselors are remote, so email is probably the best way to get a hold of us at first, and then we can follow up with a Zoom meeting or phone call after that. So thank you, everybody. Any closing words about sport, medicine, or athletic training you want to leave us with?
Oh, gosh. I didn't really think about that. No, I would say just think about your passion, think what makes you go. Ask as many questions as possible, and reach out if you need anything.
All right. Well, thanks, Jaclyn. Thanks, everybody. Hope you guys have a great night and a good rest of the week.
All right. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, everyone.